Venison has been a staple in our household as long as I can remember, way back to when I was a kid, and as soon as my husband and I moved out of the house, it remained the same. Not only is venison much better for you than any of the meats that you can buy from the store, but it's also a lot cheaper than having to buy meat from the store. And a lot of people may argue that hunting is expensive because of all the equipment that you have to have and the guns and the ammunition, but most of it's a one-time investment, and hunting is just so much more sustainable than buying meat from the store. I'm not saying that we don't buy any meat from the store because we don't always fill our tags, unfortunately, but if we can avoid it, we definitely do try not to buy meat from the store. You shouldn't be intimidated by cutting up your own deer. It saves you a lot of money from sending it to the butcher to do it yourself. And it's really not as hard as you think. Here I am just cutting up the back straps fresh off of the deer, and I'm just doing my best to trim off all of the silver skin and the excess fat. Silver skin is a thin layer of gristle, basically, that is kind of silvery and shiny, and it is just very tough. But backstrap is one of the things that you cut off immediately, along with the tenderloin, and we usually try to cut off any neck meat or any other meat scraps that we can off of the carcass that are going to end up drying out and getting ruined if we don't cut them up right away. Everything that doesn't get made into a steak, stew meat, or some kind of a roast gets thrown in the grinder, and even a little bit of fat. Now it's time to package the meat. I like to use a vacuum sealer because it keeps it from getting freezer burnt the longest, and if the roasts are too big, I will end up wrapping them in some butcher paper. But having everything vacuum sealed does definitely help you keep a more organized freezer space. Before you go out hunting, you should always target practice and make sure your rifle is sighted in. In this case, I haven't shot a rifle in probably about 5 or 6 years, and I needed to do some target practice. My rifle was way off, but by the end of the shooting, we ended up getting it dead on, and we were ready to go out hunting. This year we had plans to go hunting, just my husband and I, but everything kind of fell through and we didn't really have anybody to take care of the kids for us, so we decided we still wanted to go together, so we just brought the kids with us. We've wanted to get them into hunting anyways, but at ages 4 and 6, it is definitely kind of hard because they don't have a lot of patience. But they ended up doing pretty well. We went out before the sun came up and found a spot to sit for a couple hours and watch, but this time we didn't see anything. So we came back and did some stuff around the house for the day. I ended up going for a little walk behind the house on my own. I saw a couple does, but didn't see any bucks. So at this point, we were just waiting to finish some stuff up around the house, and then we would head out again as a family in the evening. We ended up splitting up, and my husband took my son and I took my daughter, and we did a pretty good hike. I was really proud of her, and even in the pouring rain, she did really good. All in all, it was a very good lesson for our kids to learn how to be quiet and just pay attention to their surroundings and look for animals. It was a very good experience for them, and both of them enjoyed it a lot. Early the next morning, my husband stayed back with the kids so I could go out hunting. I had this idea to sit in this place because it was kind of between the public land and the road below our property. So I figured maybe that would kind of funnel the deer up towards me. That didn't work out, so I sent a message through satellite to my husband to meet me at this other area and pick me up. As I was on the way to the spot I said I would meet him, I saw this buck standing out in the open. I took a shot, he ran off, and I instantly went and looked for the blood trail and ended up tracking him all on my own. You're gonna provide a lot of meat for our family, aren't you? Thank you. I ended up texting my husband again through satellite and having him meet me somewhere else. He came and helped me drag the deer out and get it loaded up into the back of our rig.
This big deal one. She finds out it's this big.
Now it's time to get to work. Once we got the deer home, I started skinning it while my husband got the excavator ready to hang it up so we could finish gutting it and skinning it. Skinning a deer really isn't that hard. There's some things to remember when you're doing it, but it's a pretty simple process as long as you don't get too squeamish over blood and all that, which luckily I don't. Funny enough, my husband kind of does, but he can still get it done. We worked as a team to get this done faster. It definitely takes longer when you just have one person. But when you have two people, it definitely goes by a lot faster. Mama Kitty had to come in and see what was going on. The cats and the dogs will both enjoy the scraps that they get off of this deer. Here my husband was trying something new that he had seen on a video about cutting the bone here instead of cutting around the bladder and stuff, but it didn't work out, so I don't recommend doing it that way. Here we are just getting the guts out and dumping out the remainder of the blood, and then we will check the organs. We always keep the heart and the liver. Usually the liver will either go to the dogs or someone else who may want to eat it. We don't eat the liver, but we do eat the heart. Hanging the deer up like this just makes it easier to skin and keeps the meat a lot cleaner when it's off the ground. If you don't have a piece of equipment, then a lot of people will use some poles that they put up in a tree or even something they build to hang the deer off of so they can skin it and let it hang for a couple days. This part is typically pretty easy. You just skin it by taking your knife and pulling the skin and just finding that little membrane that seems to separate, and you just basically cut the membrane and the skin comes right off. I do feel very fortunate to have had my husband there to help me, but It is also a comforting feeling knowing that if he wasn't here, I could have definitely taken care of this all on my own. From going out and hunting the deer to finding the blood trail and tracking it, I'm very proud of myself. I also feel very blessed that we are able to feed our family with this meat that is just so much healthier than the store bought beef. And not only does it save us money, but it makes us healthier. And it's just such a rewarding feeling to go out there and harvest your own food. This is the life that I have always wanted, and these are the things that I've always wanted to teach my kids growing up. And I'm very grateful that they are able to witness these things and learn just as I did when I was a kid, so that hopefully when they grow up, they can do the same things. The next step is to cut out the tenderloins, which are actually inside of the gut cavity. And then we move on to the back strap, which is one of the best cuts of meat off the deer. It is like the prime rib on a cow, but much smaller. But it's very delicious, made into steaks or even roasts. We ended up quartering the deer to hang it this time because we didn't really have a spot where we could hang the whole deer without the animals getting into it, but I definitely prefer hanging it as a whole. I feel like there's just a little bit less meat dried out. Either way, it was a great feeling to have some meat hanging out this fall. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy my videos, please make sure you like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you are a hunting family or if you've ever wanted to get into hunting, and let me know your thoughts. I will see you in the next video.